Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Rachelle from Improv. I am here with the triple threat of comedy, Ryan Niemiller. He was gracious enough to give us some of his time, and we have fished the internet for the world's greatest and most fascinating and most deep questions. And we're going to just start throwing them your way.
Hey, Shell, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I'm interested to see what these questions are going to be because you offered to let me know ahead of time, and
Hmm.
I was like, no, you get the hell out of here with that. I want to
Shot
be
it right down.
surprised by the internet's best. So
Shot
let's
it.
see what we
Yep.
got
All right. We're just gonna get going here. Right off the bat. Ryan, what is your favorite curse word?
here. I like how you're getting out of the way because people might not know. Right before we started recording, I asked like, "Hey, can we curse?" And you're like, "Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to be PG." And the first question is, "I want you to say fuck." Like
Please.
that's what I want you to do. Um, it's very simplistic, but it's probably the F word. It's so multifaceted and useful. It's got the
Hmm.
comedy K sound.
Yep.
It's a elite word. That's the thing that's like unfortunate, I guess, about most like curse words or like words you're not supposed to say. They're
Hmm.
the most fun words on the planet to like sound wise. There's
Yeah.
always like hard K's and the oohs and
There's like
it's
a gratification when you say some of them.
oh God, you
Yeah.
like you feel those words in your body, like it courses through your soul, just as you say it, and then you immediately feel better. Like just one good hard F word, my day is like, oh, I can get back to work now. I'm I'm good to go.
Nice. You can just scream it at your alarm like first thing in the morning.
Well, I mean, I'm a comedian. That's cute that you think I have an alarm.
Oh, that's
That's,
true.
you don't need an alarm when you get up at the crack of noon every day.
That's true. That's true. What is your favorite non-curse word? Just word, regular
Favorite just
word.
word in
Yeah.
general? It's been this way since high school, and I don't know why this word makes me laugh so much, but it's radiator.
Okay.
Something about the word radiator. It's fun to say. There was a small business in my hometown of DeMott, Indiana, that
Yep.
it always made me laugh. It was called the Radiator Surgeons, and it was so that's like so like overly pompous and
Yeah.
like they're making a much bigger deal of what they do and who they are. Like, come on, man, you're like I understand I can't fix a car, so I'm not belittling it, but you're a
Right.
grease monkey. Like you're not you know you're not changing the world like radiator surgeon. Like no, you fix cars and that's awesome. Like I wish I could fix cars right now. I wouldn't have been deemed non-essential for the last 4 months. I would actually have a purpose. That's
Womp
been
womp.
the weirdest thing about this. Like,
Yeah.
like again, like on that same front, like I understand being a comedian. Like I'm not changing the world in that way. I'm not I'm not making big changes. I tell jokes about my wiener for money. Like that's what I do. But man, it is rough spending months where people are just like, you are not essential. You're not needed.
Yeah.
Go get
Your
a menial
entire
job.
industry
And
can eat it.
you're just like, oh, come on, man. Like it's not my fault I have no practical skills. It's how I was made.
Bummer.
Yeah,
Oh
really.
my goodness. Let's see. We did curse word, check. We did regular word, check. We did have our friend, he's at the King of Araby, but our friend John Boy submitted
Johnny
a
G.
question. Yeah, John. And he's asked, does Ryan still have any interest in improv?
Do I still have any interest in improv? I do actually. It's very strange to me, and I don't quite understand it. In stand-up comedy, like in that kind of world, improv generally gets shit on a lot. Like it's like a weird and like again, I think the reason that it does, and again, I say this lovingly as someone who's done a lot of bad improv in my life. Like I'm guilty of it as well. I think the difference is when improv is done well, it's amazing. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of the funniest stuff. It's a difficult skill. It's hard to do. When it's done at an elite level, it's one of the best things you're ever going to see. The
Yeah.
problem is when it's done poorly, it's one of the most cringeworthy things you're ever going to be a part of.
It's
Stand up has a little bit of that as well, but I think the lows of stand up comedy is not quite the same as the lows of improv. Like Elite, they're both amazing. I think
yeah.
it's when you get into that, like, okay, these people are trying, but it's just not working.
Yeah.
I think that's it. But I've always loved improv. I mean, that's where essentially where we met. I mean, we've kind of met through theater and college and stuff, but
Hmm.
I mean, we were on improv troops in college together.
Hmm.
I still love it. It helped me out so much with stand up, just with being quick on your feet and dealing with hecklers and unexpected things that happen. It's just
Hmm.
a good skill set. If I could dedicate the time to it, I would do more.
Hmm.
The issue that I've had over the past few years, and it's a good problem to have, I'm not complaining, but I've just been working so much in stand up, like
Right.
to be really proficient at improv. It's not just show up once every month and play some games and then you're great at improv. Like you have to
Right.
actually work on the craft and do some things. And I can't dedicate that kind of time to it at this point.
Mhm.
But as far as improv, I love it. Like it was my kind of first big experience into doing like live comedy performances.
Mhm.
It was always so much fun. I would do it again. I don't have that same mentality of like, oh, this is beneath me. Like, no,
Right.
it was a very useful tool for me for what I do now. So absolutely, I still have interest. Just I don't have
I
the time.
Fair enough, man. I enjoyed the hell out of getting to be on stage with you and performing and stuff like that. And I hope you're able to find your way back to it someday. Like I would adore the hell out of that. That would be so great because you've
Yeah,
got a
it'd be nice. Like,
great
like
wit
I,
for
I've tried a couple times. So like people have been like, it just didn't work out timing wise. But like, hey, would you want to come and maybe do some improv games at this? And like, I haven't done it in so long. It would be
it. Hmm.
scary, but like, and I also don't want to diminish from people who are actually doing this.
Right.
It's kind of the similar situation of like when they invite like a pro wrestler to come do stand up comedy. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're excited to do it, but it's like you can't
Yeah.
just show up and do it and be good at it. So
Right.
it's kind of I would want to have a little bit at least some refreshers on some things before I did it. But yeah, but I love it. I mean,
That's
improv is fun.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun and it's such a great way to build a community. Like I moved to Indy from not living here for, my whole life and then I moved
Right.
here and took classes and boom, instant group of friends. It's pretty great
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
It's so great for that.
Bunch of weirdos, but
Oh
they're our
yeah.
kind of weirdos, so it works out.
Yeah, exactly. The best kind of weirdos. What is something that people are surprised to learn about you?
Um, Something people are surprised that I think you probably know this just because you've known me for so long,
Hmm.
but that I'm scared of everything. I think that because people assume because like my job is I talk in front of crowds and I was on America's Got Talent in front of literally millions of people, and
Right.
that didn't scare me at all. Like that's but like the number one fear of most people is public speaking. It's being in front
Hmm.
of people. So they assume like, oh, if he's so comfortable doing the thing most people are scared of, he's probably scared of nothing. That is the absolute not truth. What's
Right.
I am scared of heights. I'm scared of bees. I'm scared of most insects that know. I'm scared of animals. I'm scared of nature. I'm
Swimming.
scared of the water. I'm scared of
Water.
children. I'm scared of this conversation because I don't know what you're going to ask. I don't.
Yep.
Yeah, I am scared of so many things. So I think people are shocked by that because I get asked a lot when I'm on the road by well-meaning fans. They're like, "Hey, you
Mhm.
want to go rock climbing? You want to, I have these, I have some four-wheelers if you want to come out and do that, and I'll take you fishing." And I'm
Oh
like,
God.
all of that sounds horrifying. Not just because they're like fans I don't know, like ignoring
Right.
that part, which is
Yeah.
scary in and of itself. I'm talking more about just like the actual act, like you want to come do? No, I don't ever. Let me just. May I wear a bubble suit? That's the only way I'd consider it. I am so yeah. I'm terrified of everything. It's very weird.
Wow. Yeah. I did know most of that. I think kids might have been a new one. I don't think I knew you were afraid of children. Is that a
I
new
mean, I
development?
mean, the fears aren't all equal in how they manifest themselves. Let's not
Gotcha.
get. I don't see a kid and I don't run away like I'm getting chased by a bee if a kid
hmm
is
hmm
nearby.
hmm
But like it's been better after AGT because I think I've been normalized a little bit more to a lot of kids. But
That's
man,
true.
kids are mean. You know,
Yeah.
kids don't have that filter. So like all the
Right.
meanest things that have ever been said to me in my life are by people under the age of 8.
Yep.
They're just awful. And like that's why I'm scared. Like anytime I'm in a room, I can like instinctively tell. It's like my weird like X-Men superpower. I know where children are at any given time because I have to
You
always be
probably feel
aware.
the
Like, okay, is
stare.
this kid gonna say something shitty? Is this kid gonna
Yeah.
come, scream or do something? I'm always just like on edge and kind of on alert for that.
Mm.
So that's how I'm scared. Like, I mean, I'm not scared of a kid. If a kid got in my face, I can knock that kid out in a heartbeat. I'll beat up as many kids as you need. I'm not scared of that.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah. That's why
It's
I was
true.
surprised that you were scared of them. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that filter is gone, like you said. Yeah. I believe I've been there to witness a few of those encounters,
Yeah.
and I completely see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and like, there's only so much you can do to a kid. Like you can't like I can't have like this like scathing burn or comeback on a child. It's wasted on a
Right.
7-year-old. They don't know. They don't have that shame to be
Right.
embarrassed. And it's like if someone my age makes fun of me, well, who gives a shit? You're no one to me. Like if you're just gonna be a dick, like whatever, I'll move
Mhm.
on with my day. A
Right.
7-year-old is just like, you're ugly. See ya. You have no recourse. You can do nothing.
Peace.
Yeah, out of here. I'm eating ice cream. You're gross.
Here's one. If you couldn't be funny, like if you had to switch it out for something else, like if you couldn't be funny, what would you rather be? What would you prefer to be?
If I had to change,
Mhm.
I would. There's a little nuance to this answer, but
Mhm.
I would want to be smarter in like a practical way.
Okay.
Because like I'm not a stupid guy, but I don't have the patience to like learn chemistry. Like things like that. I have a lot of like real world intelligence and
Mhm.
like people are eating and like I'm a smart guy. I could figure it out eventually. But like
Right.
but stuff like anything that's like finite like that, like math and science and stuff, just takes me longer to learn. I would want to
Mhm.
be smarter, I guess, in that front, so that like I would not be deemed non-essential right now.
Yep. There
That's what
you
I'd want to be smart, or even like there's going to be a bad pun here, so I apologize ahead of time, but just handier. Like the thought of just being able to like, oh, the sink is dripping. I'm gonna go fix that really fast.
Mhm.
Instead of like, oh God, the sink's just dripping forever now. This is this is something I'm gonna have to get used to.
It's like a side saddle toilet. Just deal with it.
Gosh, yeah, that freaking and that's probably the worst place I've ever lived. It's up there. Um,
Mhm.
having a bathroom where literally you had to sit side saddle on the toilet because the sink, and it wasn't just because I'm a big dude, but like anyone that was in there, the sink was just over the toilet. So you had
Yeah.
to like put your feet in the shower to do it. I like looking back on it now, and at the time you don't know any better. When we're in
Right.
college, we're all just poor and trying to figure it
Yeah.
out. But I had a string of like I think there was 3 places I lived at in college in Terre Haute that
Mhm.
after I moved out, the place was demolished. Like
Same
that's
here.
how,
Yeah.
including the one place that we
The
lived,
one that we
the
lived.
place
Yeah.
was
Oh.
dem like I don't know what that's. I don't think I did it. I don't think I'm the cause. It was just like I was finally the last straw, I guess, where the city was like, okay, this has to go. You gotta, you gotta get this out of here.
We've got low standards. Yeah, I remember helping. I believe I helped you move out of the side saddle toilet place. I
I
think
think so,
because that
yeah.
was pretty early on. I think you had moved. Were moving in with Brandon for the first time or something.
Yes.
I don't remember,
Yeah, I
but
think that
I
was right
remember
before
like,
going over to that married student housing.
oh boy, yeah, I saw
Oh
it in its glory, the side
yeah,
saddle
it was
toilet.
it was rough. But it makes you stronger, I guess. It'll
That,
make me appreciate when I finally get to buy a house. I'll be like, oh, okay, I know what this could be.
let's see here. Um, when have you been most satisfied in your life?
It's a little cliche answer,
Hmm.
but it's just 100% truth. Like that, the first audition for America's Got Talent, it was like the validation of like what I've been trying to tell everyone, including the comedy industry, that
Yeah.
like, no, what I do is marketable. It like this works. Trust
Hmm.
me, I know what I'm talking about. So just kind of feeling that like the satisfaction of knowing that like I stuck with it. I stuck to my guns with what I knew was going to make me stand out and be unique and be something
Hmm.
special, and then having it actually work in such a
Yeah.
big way, like that just entire run all the way through the finals. Um, and just like finally like getting people just to trust me, that like not trying to change me into being just another mid-30s white bearded guy who
Right.
there's, even if they're funny, there's billions of us in the comedy world. Like, no,
Right.
give this is something that's a little different. Like, trust that people are going to come along with it, and they did.
Right.
So like that satisfaction, I guess, of just being right. I don't know if that's like too too cocky of me, but
Not at
like
all.
I mean, most of what I've got done in the comedy business has been based off of spite. I don't
Fair
know how
enough.
healthy that is, but it's just like anytime people tell me like, no, that's not gonna work, I'm like, well, screw you, I'll show you it's gonna work, and it just
Yeah.
makes me work that much harder. So having it actually pay off was both very satisfying and a huge relief because I also don't like to be really like steadfast on something and then like, oh shit, you're right, sorry.
Well, I mean, you worked your ass off, like your entire ass. You worked it off to get there, and it
These
was
are implants now.
so
I can afford ass implants, so that's actually what I had to.
it was just so great to see you be rewarded like that. Even if you like, I knew as soon as I found out you were going on that show, I was like, there's no way he's going home anytime soon. Like he's going all the way. And it was just so great to see everybody else see how hard you've worked and to just see that culmination. So like I feel like I told you at the show when I saw you last, but I cried the first time I saw you on TV. I was just like so happy that everybody else could finally see like and reward you for this hard work that you've put in for so long, because so many people at those shows I feel like walk in there and they just don't have the chops and they haven't worked for it, but you earned every single minute of that and beyond. So
Well, thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. It was a situation too, like because I tried to get on the show for about 5 years, so it wasn't
oh
something that I
wow.
just on a whim was like this might be fun. Like it was
Okay.
actively a goal that I tried, and I failed 3 or 4 times before I actually got on there.
I
Failure
shouldn't know
being
that.
in quotes, but like it's a situation
Mhm.
where it's like you get closer and you learn and you figure it out and you try a different tactic and you do this, you do that, and yeah, like, and I kind of felt the same way too. And like, I don't want this to sound too cocky, but like, I knew, and I'm like this with most things. Like, when I finally get the opportunity, I'm gonna succeed. Like for me, the bigger struggle and the bigger worry is getting
Mhm.
the chance. Because
Right.
it's hard to get people to take a chance on you if you have a noticeable disability. It's just how entertainment works. It's not
Right.
fair, but it's just the world we're in right now, and it's what I'm fighting against and trying to fix in whatever small way I can.
That's
So like
great.
that's the bigger struggle. Once I got the go ahead and got on that stage, I was like, oh, this is my house. I'm taking care of business. I'm
Yeah.
not going home until the finals. Like I'm making it all the way. That was the goal, and I was like, I'm not settling for anything less. And then getting that chance, I did comedy for 12 years before I got that, and
Mhm.
all those stories I told about being on the road and sleeping in my car and doing like 12-hour drives for
Yeah.
barely any money and 100% real. That wasn't like something I made up for like, oh, this will make a good story. Like,
Right.
no, I struggled for a long time and gave
Yeah.
up a lot. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I missed a lot of weddings and birthdays and anniversaries and
Mhm.
parties and holidays and all that stuff so that I could get good enough at this that when I finally got that chance, I was going to knock it out of the park.
And you did. You totally did.
Yeah.
That's so
I mean,
awesome.
well, yeah. No matter what Heidi Klum says, I.
So how was your process when writing? Are you working on new stuff right now, or like, do you have a process when you work
um,
on
I,
material?
I have a very loose process, and this doesn't work for everybody, but because that's the cool thing about creating. Everyone kind of figures out their own style.
Hmm.
Like I have friends in the business who the way that they have to create, they literally have to sit down and write for an hour or more a day. So they pull out
Wow.
a notebook and they just write and write and write and write and hope something just pops up. That
Yeah.
has never worked for me.
Hmm.
Like in my experience of doing that, anytime I sit down to write, instead of like thinking of things that I think are funny, which I
Hmm.
believe is how you should write comedy. You should figure out first what you think is funny and
Yeah.
then figure out how to translate that to others. That's essentially what I think writing comedy is.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
if I sit down to just write jokes instead of thinking what I think is funny, I start thinking, okay, what do people think are fun? Like people like cats, right? What can I write about cats? Instead of me
Mm.
just going, oh, this thing happened, so I'm going to write about it. So for me, my best writing tool is actually this. So when I just have my phone with me at all times, I'll see something, think of something, make a quick note on
Yeah.
my phone, save it. That's how I write. And then I actually kind of work out the bits. And this is something I've learned after almost 14 years now of doing comedy
Hmm.
that um, I kind of just know my voice and I know basic joke structure.
Yeah.
So now I write, I get the idea, and then I try it on stage. I'll try it during a show
Okay.
because with stand up, it can be a little different if you're like a creative writer or trying to write a book or something like that. You can do edits and first drafts and stuff like that. With stand up, you can think something is funny. You have to try it in front of strangers.
Right.
You just have to. You need people that don't already love you to end up getting on board. It's
That's
the
so
reason,
true.
and I say this lovingly because she's my favorite human being on the planet. But it's the reason I don't give a shit if my mom thinks I'm funny because my mom loves me no matter what I do. So my mom is so supportive. It's a nice bonus that she laughs at my stuff, but she
Yeah.
never has to buy a ticket. She's she's gonna love me if I become an accountant or anything. So again, it's great that she loves me and thinks I'm
Bless her
funny,
heart.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter as far as like what's important is like you got to figure out a way to get people who have no reason to care if you're alive or dead, that have no connection to you, don't know you personally. You have to get them to like you. And the way
Yeah.
you do that is by telling those jokes in front of them and workshopping it that way. And it's scary because even now, like I consider myself relatively successful in this business at this point. And
Yeah.
it's still super scary to go out there and try a joke and then you're like, oh, that feeling of like a joke not working the way you want to
Uh,
still
yeah.
hurts now just as much as it did year one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. You've just got your, bags of money to cry on now.
Exactly. Now I just like I weep on my giant video game collection and my purebred dogs that I now own. My 16 dogs.
So that's your process. And you've talked about, how scary it is to bring new material to people. Like, I'm too scared to even try. So I've never taken, we have stand-up class. Isaac Lamfort is an amazing stand-up here in
Oh yeah, yeah.
Indianapolis.
Isaac's the best. Yeah,
He's the
Isaac's
best.
a good friend of mine. I've known him for years. Isaac
Yeah,
is a wonderful human being and very funny.
so funny. And he offers a class like through Improv, through us, he offers a stand-up class and I'm still too scared to take it. And I know I should trust him and would be well taken care of and be taught very well. How would you encourage someone like me to push past that fear?
The
Or even should I? I don't know.
if it's something where you like, if you have the interest at all to do it, you absolutely should.
Hmm.
I don't think that like obviously no one is obligated. I would never say 100% of the population should try stand up.
Right.
If you have no if the idea doesn't even bring you any joy, of course don't try it. Who gives like why would you do that?
Yeah.
But like just from talking to you, I mean, if you've kind of fought with yourself for a long time about doing it, you
Mhm.
clearly want to try it. So
I
you need
know.
to try. And honestly, like the two things that I always recommend, um, that and it even helped me because even if I'm kind of built more to try this kind of stuff, it was still scary the first few times to do it. Like it's still
Hmm.
you're throwing yourself out there at the mercy of strangers to judge
Yeah.
you. But the things that I always try to remind people, and even just remind myself, is number one, the you just have to do it. Like it's like ripping off a band-aid. You have
Yeah.
to like there's not going to be any outside of making sure you have a couple jokes prepared, like actually writing out your 3 to 5 minute set you're going to do.
Hmm.
Like there's no amount of like practicing in front of the mirror that's going to make it easier. You just have to rip the band-aid and do it. And then secondly, this is a little flippant and maybe just a little, like too high philosophy kind of mentality for it. But like you also have to remember, if you go do an open mic, no one gives a shit. And I say that like lovingly as someone who knows what I do for a living and knows
Hmm.
that like it like I'm not gonna say the arts aren't important, but like the individual like we're not curing cancer, like there's so many bigger things. Like
Yeah.
if you bomb at an open mic that you try, sure, it's not gonna feel great, but do you think anyone's gonna be talking about that in 10 years? You think that's gonna be on someone's deathbed 40 years from now? They're gonna be like, Shell sucked. And like that's not what's gonna happen. So like you have to give it a little perspective. I know everything we do is important to us, but
Hmm.
you also have to remember that, like, hey, even if that 3 minutes goes horribly, the second that show's over, nobody cares anymore. And
Yeah.
like, if you can kind of like, obviously you're passionate about it, and I'm passionate about it. I care about what I do and take it seriously. But like at the end of the day, what I always was taught with stand up, and this is just how to like deal with like bombing or anything
Hmm.
like that, is no matter what happens in that venue, leave it there. So it keeps you from getting too high and too low. If I go out and bomb, awesome, whatever. The second that show's over and I'm in my car, that show's already out of my head. Same thing if you kill. I've had shows where I've absolutely crushed it, and you have to
Yeah.
also leave that behind too, because your next show might be the worst show you've ever done. I've had those happen on the same night,
Oh
where you
man.
where you're doing like a Saturday and the
Yeah.
early show is fire, and you get a standing ovation and everything's amazing, and you're like, oh man, I might be the funniest comic that's ever lived. I'm really killing it. And then the late show happens, and you're like, I think I'm gonna go back to school. I don't think comedy is for me. I think I'm gonna. So you have
The
to
first
leave.
grade.
Just leave it there, no matter what happens. But like, if you have the interest to do it, like it seems so simplistic, but just go F and do it. That's that's all you got to do,
Okay.
because you're gonna freak yourself out more, and then when it actually happens, you're gonna be like, well, that wasn't. It was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. I love the idea of leaving it there. And it does seem to balance it out because, like, in a month, in a normal month, not recent months, but in a normal month, I would be hosting or performing in maybe 5 improv shows. And you get a little scared when they start going well because you wait
Yep.
for the next, because it always evens out somehow.
Yeah, you're waiting for that bomb. And again, like the more you do it, you're obviously like I'm not arrogant in saying this, but like I do well way more than I bomb at this point, because it's just like with
Right.
anything. Like if you get a skill set,
Hmm.
you practice it. I've done this for 14 years, like
Yeah.
you figure it out, you know what to do. But like it's a thing, anything with live performance, there's going to be so many factors. I did some shows in Peoria last week. It was my first actual in-person shows since it's all been going on,
Yeah.
and they were a little stressful, but the crowds were great. Saturday I had two shows. In the middle of my set, the first show, a storm knocked out the power. You can't
Oh.
account for that when you got there,
No.
like it doesn't matter like how prepared you were. Like I wasn't ready for that. But like
Mm.
they ended up having a great time. They got to be a part of a moment. And then the late show, the power was still off.
Hmm.
So the energy was different for that, because people
Yeah.
they weren't there when it happened. So you weren't
Uh,
shouting something. So they were just coming in and the place was hot and like the lighting was weird and like it
yeah.
was, so like the energy was different. And I couldn't have prepared for that. I was so worried about like Are people going to wear their masks? What's the plane ride going to be like? I hadn't flown since, any of this had happened.
Yeah.
So I was worried about all that stuff, not about the damn power going out. So you just never know what's going to happen anyway. So that's why you got to treat every performance as its own individual thing. Because again, like I might have crushed it on AGT. That doesn't mean a damn thing to the people of Boise, Idaho. Like that performance does not matter anymore
Yeah.
because this is a new performance that's happening.
Hmm.
That's how you have to look at it.
That makes so much sense. That absolutely makes so much sense. Do you have a favorite venue that you've done stand up in?
Um, there's ones that I like more than others.
Fair enough.
For me, I mean, it's just the nature of it. Like I'm fortunate enough that I get to do this for a living. So there's not any venues that I'm like, oh, this place sucks. Like some are just better than others. It's how it is.
Hmm.
Um, I will tell you, I probably think the best comedy clubs I perform in the country, it's Wise Guys in Salt Lake City.
Oh, cool.
So they have a run of like three. They have three clubs, kind of one in Salt Lake City proper, and then a couple kind of in the outskirts.
Hmm.
Um, they're always amazing. They always sell out. So have you heard Dry Bar Comedy?
I was about to ask. They probably don't have any alcohol there. Yeah.
No, no, no. At these shows, at the Wise Guys, they do,
Oh,
but they're
okay.
the ones that run Dry Bar. So like
Okay.
that kind of shows, like they know what they're doing. So
Okay.
so to kind of give you an idea, um, so with AGT, to actually be able to sell tickets as a comic, you pretty much have to make the finals. Like
Mhm.
that's sort of what gives you that bump to really
Yeah.
be able to actually actively sell tickets across the country.
Right.
Wise Guys contacted me right after my first audition aired, so only the first one had aired, and they
Uh-huh.
were like, "Hey, you want to come in to do a show in Salt Lake City on a Monday?" Which is Monday is awful for stand-up comedy. That is not a comedy day. That's the end of the weekend. People
Mhm.
just get back to work. They don't want to go see a damn show.
Yeah.
But for me, I was just like, sweet, they're gonna pay me money. I'm gonna go to Salt Lake City. I've never been to Utah. Only one performance on AGT had aired, and it went well, but still, that doesn't by itself do anything.
Hmm.
Um, and place was packed, sold out on a Monday. They just know what they're doing. They treat the comics well.
Wow.
Some comedy clubs, and I won't name names,
Fair
treat
enough.
comics more like they're cattle, like they're like a
Mm.
product as opposed to a
Yeah.
human being that's
Mhm.
there. Keith and everybody at Wise Guys treat you like you're the most special human being on the planet. They
Oh,
make sure you're safe. They make sure you're well taken care of. The crowds are great. Uh, this will sound weird when I say it, but the audiences are well trained. Like the
oh,
comedy club has done a great job of like this is the expectations when you're at a show. You don't heckle. You don't do this. You show up on time. Or you're out of here. We don't put up with it. And so there's a
nice.
great culture around it. I'm actually excited. There's a lot of clubs right now that I'm kind of, it depends on the circumstance and the state with just
Hmm.
safety and all that. Um, I'm doing it in August, and it was a no-brainer for me to go back there and do it because I know
Oh,
I'll be
good.
well taken care of. The people will be well taken care of. They treat their customers well too. They're not just wallets who are
Yeah.
going to be there. So they actually care about comedy. So highly recommend. I don't know if anyone from Utah will get a chance to see this video. Who knows how
I
far
hope
this
so.
will spread? But definitely go to that club.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really great place and just a good way to run a business. Like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
common sense.
it's so weird because like so many other businesses, it's like they're clearly making money because they spend a little extra money on the extra things, like on the promotion and the food's good, and they make sure the comics are happy. Like they
Yeah.
just do so good with everybody that like it pays for itself because even if they don't know the comics, people who go to those clubs are going to know it's going to be a good time because they have this expectation. They know how things are going to be run. They know that they're going to be taken care of. Everything's going to be professional. It's going to be nothing weird that's going on. It just makes perfect sense. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, comedy clubs that kind of cut corners. Like I get it. Financially, things are weird, especially right now.
Oh my God.
Comedy is not always a lucrative business for certain clubs, but like there's certain things you can do just and it starts with just like treating the comics and your patrons like they're humans. Like just start there, and then the
Yeah.
rest will kind of work itself out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you found a good place like that.
Oh yeah, and I'm just giving them special mention, but like there's a
Mhm.
lot of clubs that treat you well. I don't want to
Yeah,
make it sound like every other place is garbage and like
there's
this is the
exceptions.
one. Yeah. Yeah, I get treated really well. Most comedy clubs like they treat you well, but there's just some that like when you come in, they treat you like you're an employee that got hired for this weekend,
Mm,
and then some people treat you like your buddies, and they're gonna make sure you're
yeah,
taken care of, and that's kind of the difference for me.
that's so nice. Yay. Let's see. So I asked about your favorite venue. What's your like? I don't know if everybody knows you have a theater degree, like your
Correct.
background in theater. So what's your favorite show that you've gotten to perform in?
Easily favorite show for theater is The Foreigner.
The Foreigner.
Oh,
That was a
absolutely.
great one.
Yeah. So I did that the professional summer stock. It might have still
Mhm.
been was it still summer stage at the time or was it Crossroads then? I
I
can't
think
remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, it was
I
a
think
while.
that's
So
really
either
close to
way,
when we changed it.
yeah, either way, Indiana State's professional summer stock theater that they do. So it was a show we did there. It's a very funny. It's a very relevant show now that
Hmm.
deals a lot with like xenophobia and racism and things like
Hmm.
that. It does it in a really funny way. Um, I do blame that show for accidentally giving me a southern draw occasionally because I couldn't do that damn
Stalwart.
accent. I couldn't
Yeah.
do that damn Southern Georgia accent, so I had to talk like that all the time for about 3 weeks, and now I still drop off my G's on words and just we're just kicking,
Kicking.
doing that. Yeah, but I love that show, and like I will say for me, theater is very similar to how I feel about improv. That like I love it. The main reasons I stopped doing theater was just financially, it's just more viable for me to do stand up
Right.
because I can travel every night. I'm the product. I don't have to pack up a stage.
Hmm.
Like one of the best parts about theater is also what makes it the hardest to do sometimes is because theater's collaborative. You
Right.
need a lot of people, you need set designers, you need the lighting designers, you need directors and stage managers. And for me, I just need a microphone. And maybe
Yep.
not even that. I just need to
Right.
go and be there. Um, for me that was the big deal. It was just like it's just so hard because you put in so much time to do a theater production
Right.
and it's just hard. I would love to do it again if the circumstances turned out right for like a certain
Hmm.
project. But yeah, live theater is the best. It's so much fun. Um, it was just a situation like between like just not being able to do it enough to
Right.
financially support myself, and I also wanted to tell my story. That's the other kind of thing that's a little bit different with theater.
Hmm.
Again, you can tell wonderful stories, but like Shakespeare's had his story told thousands upon thousands of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I haven't had my story told yet, and that's kind of what you get to do with stand up. You get to kind of be you. Shakespeare's had his day. I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and do mine a little bit.
Have a seat, William. Yeah.
You know.
While I'm looking at that, I will ask you, who is your role model and why?
Uh, that's always a tricky question for me, and
Mhm.
I've been there's obviously like people in my life that have kind of inspired me, and you want to kind of model yourself after a little bit, but like
Mhm.
for me, I guess it was always like it's sort of like it takes a village kind of situation. Like I'll take a
Okay.
little bit from other people and see kind of how it works. But
Yeah.
like I always felt like I don't know if isolated is the right word, but like in my hometown, I was like the only dude with a disability,
Yeah.
like so I've kind of always felt like I've had to do these things a little more on my own because I didn't really have
Hmm.
a template to do that. Um, so I don't know. I'm kind of just like it's gonna be a little whimsical of an answer, I guess, but like I'm just like inspired by people who just get shit done, I guess, on their own. Like anyone
Yeah.
that because like I'm an example of someone like nothing was handed to me. Like I
Right.
didn't just magically get an opportunity out of nowhere and then made into this thing. Like I had to bust my ass for a long time and deal
Hmm.
with a lot more no's than yeses. Um, so I guess I would say like just anyone that can kind of do that. Um, and people who just are just like realistic about things. Um,
Okay.
I don't like being bullshitted, at all. So
Mhm.
like I'm pretty inspired by someone who just like tells it like it is, knows the reality of their situation, and makes it work for them. It was always so frustrating because I even knew this when I was like 5, 6 years old. So I used to play, sports was one of my first loves. So like growing up, I
Yeah.
played like little league baseball and like all this
Yeah.
stuff, and I was good. I was as good as you can be when you're 6 years old.
Right.
But basically, when you play baseball, you can be good at 6 years old if you just know what the rules are. That already puts you ahead of like 90% of the kids. Like that
If
was
the
it. I
coach
knew
doesn't
how
have to
baseball
turn you
worked.
around.
Yeah, that was it. That made me good by default. But like even then, and it drove me nuts, and it does even now when I see it. Um, 6 years old, and I'm okay at little league baseball, and like well-meaning parents would be like, "Well, you're good. You could maybe play in the majors one day." And even as like six, I'm like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. What do you
Yeah.
like? Like this is my philosophy, and I know not everyone might agree with this, and it's easy for me to say maybe I guess a little bit because I don't have kids. So I want to preface with that. I don't have kids of my own,
Fair
but
enough.
like I feel that when you tell a kid that they can do anything they want to, you're setting them up for disaster.
Mhm.
Because all human beings, there's going to be things we're good at and there's going to be things we're terrible at.
Right.
And to teach a kid not to have the self-awareness to know that they just objectively suck at something, 'cause
Mhm.
you're allowed to suck at things. Like that's
Right.
half the fun of figuring out what you're good at
Yeah.
is trying things. And like because as much as I loved baseball, I was never going to be a major leaguer ever. I mean, you've known me for years. Pro wrestling is one of the
Yeah.
dearest things in my heart. And I trained to do it for a little bit, but the
Mhm.
writing was on the wall for me right then. It just
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen the way that like my brain would have hoped it to be. And I could
Right.
have kept trying and failing for years, but I think the healthier thing to do is try things. Tell kids to try things. And
Yeah.
if they suck at them, awesome, whatever. Try something else because eventually you're going to find something that you're passionate about that you're going to be better at than anybody else. So
Mhm.
that's what I think we should do. This, oh, you can do anything you want to is nonsense because we can't.
Yeah.
Even able bodied people. I know tons of people who have perfect lives that
Right.
couldn't touch me on stage, couldn't do anything close to what I do. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm better than them or worse than them. We just have different skill sets. So we can't
Yeah.
do anything we want to, but we can do some things really damn well. And that's what we should be looking for.
I like that. Try it until you figure it out. Find your
Yeah.
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If I
definitely.
have kids, I'm never going to force them to do anything, but I'm going to force them to do something. You got to try
Right.
things, pick
Yeah.
things. I don't care what they are. They don't have to be things that I like. If
Yeah.
I have a little boy that wants to do ballet, awesome. Figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You have to try a season though. That's going to be my rule on everything. You have to if you try something, you got to finish it. And if you hate it, we'll try something else. But you got to
Yeah.
do things. That's
Make
it.
them follow through. Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't let them quit. For sure.
Exactly.
Oh, is there an animal that you consider your enemy? There's like a spirit animal. Do you have an animal that you would consider your
That I
enemy?
consider my enemy. Well, I guess I would say there's two.
Okay.
One would be bees.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Okay.
and like I have such an irrational fear of bees. Because like I'm not allergic. So it's not
Okay.
like I understand like if you're allergic to bees, like yeah, that's some scary shit. Like
Hmm.
something that you don't even see coming could just and you're
Yeah.
like I get that for sure. I'm not
Hmm.
allergic to bees. And I'm a big dude. I'm almost 300 pounds. I could smash a bee's life. The worst it can do is stick its ass in me. It even dies when it does that. Like it's a tank, kills it. Like intellectually, I know there like, a bee can do nothing to me, and I am horrified of them. I see one, you will see me scamper like on tiptoes, like oh god, oh god, oh god. I am out of there. And I think they sense that. Like I don't
Hmm.
know the full biology and anatomy of a bee brain and how it works. But I think they sense that fear and just troll me. I think that's what happens. Um, and then also, this is a weird one, but possums. I think possums like to troll me as well.
Really?
I'm not as scared of possums. Like obviously, like I don't want one all up in my business. Like
Right.
I'm not scared. But I had so many run-ins with like, so when we grew up in the trailer as a kid,
Hmm.
um, this was on my dad 100%. But
Yeah.
at one point, we had like this hole develop in the bathroom, like on the floor basically ripped out. And my
Hmm.
and my dad was one of those guys that like he always had great intentions of like, oh, I'm gonna fix that, and then just
Yeah.
had no follow through.
Oh.
That was always it. So like what he temporarily did was just put like this like piece of plywood over the hole. It was like, okay, so at least you're not gonna fall in the hole, but like
Yeah.
I'll fix this later. And then it became winter and it still wasn't fixed. So one morning, I was probably about 8 years old at the time. I was very pleased to wake up to I had to sleep on the floor. We didn't have room for all of us to have beds, so I didn't have a
Hmm.
bed. So I'm on the floor in my little kind of like blanket and pillow mattress fort that I had made, and
Hmm.
woke up and the first thing I saw was a possum like on my pillow, just like staring me down. And I
Oh.
don't think it was just there for warmth. It was just trying to get inside. I don't think it was there to
Yeah.
attack me. But like, you don't want to have like your first image of your day being just like a drooling possum, just like. So again, I think it was just trolling me at that point. I don't.
Mhm.
I know I intellectually wasn't. Possums are of no harm to you, really. They don't attack. They're not
Right.
aggressive. They're not.
Right.
The whole like scary looking is just to scare off predators. They're not really like
Mhm.
rabid. I get that all intellectually, but I still have these like images
I
of
feel
this
like they're
damn possum.
startling
It's
you.
like, ah, good morning. It's like, oh, I gotta get out of here.
Hello, little boy. Your pillow is warm. Yeah, they're very startling. I'll give you that. I
Yeah.
thought maybe I remember one time at the zoo you got screamed at by an emu,
Oh, those freaking
and I'm sure
emus.
that's still your enemy.
Well, I mean, like I feel that vendetta was paid because like the emu tried to like
Oh,
attack me basically because like it was letting everyone else pet it. So like I know
yeah,
you're not technically supposed to pet the like I'm not advocating that, but we were in college.
right,
Everyone's an idiot in college.
right.
So like our friends are like petting the emu and like basically just poking it in the eye almost. It's like in its head, just like what's up? And the bird's cool. So I reached to do it, and the thing's like like it was going to attack me. So I was like, what the hell, emu? That's bullshit. I just want to pet you. But then we found out a couple months later that wild dogs broke in and killed the emus. So I feel at this point a vendetta like it's overkill. I think it's been paid at that
I forgot that the dogs broke in.
point. Yeah. And like only killed the emus. I'm pretty sure after telling this story, people are gonna assume I released the wild dogs, but I swear I didn't. I said
Disclaimer.
nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Ryan does not own a pack of wild dogs.
I do
Or
not.
he lived in Indianapolis at the time.
Yes.
What is something that almost nobody agrees with you on? Like, what is something that you believe to be true that like nobody agrees with you? Whether it's
um
like a band, I don't know, like.
it's kind of along those lines, and I think it's more like a philosophy that
Mm,
I think people get that they don't agree with because and it has to do with like mute but basically the mentality that like every generation for whatever reason is arrogant enough to assume that all of the best everything was made when they were kids. Like that is so mind-numbingly stupid. Like,
it's
oh,
boring.
music today is terrible. Well, yeah, because you're not a 13-year-old girl, you dummy. Like
Right.
all popular culture, like music and stuff like that, is made for essentially teenage girls. Like that
Right.
is the market, and that's what controls it. Oh, I hate Justin Bieber. Well, you should. You're a 40-year-old man. He's not for you. Doesn't
It's
like
not
because
for
we
you.
all
Yeah,
do this
exactly.
stuff. People always brag about well, my day, because like what happens is like as you get older, you get to a certain age when you think back, you think of only the best of everything
Hmm.
you think of like if you're talking like the 80s, like you go back, like this music sucks. Like in our day, we had Metallica. Like you think of all like the highlights, and you
Right.
ignore the fact that in the 80s we also had Vanilla Ice.
Yep.
You know, we had
Yep.
all the same kind of teeny bopper flash in the pan stuff that was popular for a short amount of time, just like now. But
Hmm.
like in hindsight, you can forget about that stuff and only think of like the Led Zeppelins and the Beatles. There was
Yep.
just as much garbage back then as well. You just forgot about it, as you should. Just like people will forget about the garbage now and only
Yep.
remember the top tier stuff. So this mentality that like, oh, our athletes were all the best and our music and our movies. No, you just have nostalgia like any other human. Shut up.
Yep.
There's plenty of wonderful things out now. It and like the other mentality that like gets me so mad about that too is like anytime something new comes out,
Hmm.
people want to like have this like indignant attitude like it's somehow replacing the old
Oh,
stuff. Like
yeah.
people got so and I haven't seen this movie, so this isn't me making a commentary on the actual quality of this movie because I, full disclosure, have not seen it. But when
Gotcha.
so many people got mad about like the all-female Ghostbusters,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, even if you don't like that movie, that's perfectly fine. But they didn't record over the original Ghostbusters to make
Right?
it. Like, then you could be pissed. Like, if they took all of the old footage and recorded over it to make the new
Hmm.
one, yeah, be a little mad. But
Yeah.
Ghostbusters still exists. Go watch that,
Yeah.
you damn whiners. It's so ridiculous. Like, and a lot of people are just like, no, go, no, fuck you, man. This is whatever. If you want to listen to the Beatles, go listen to the damn Beatles. It
Yeah.
exists. It's easy to find. You don't have to listen to a single new song ever. With things like Spotify and SiriusXM, you have all the options in the world to never hear a new song for the rest of your life. So
It's so
shut up and just go do that. Let people like what they like. That's it.
I agree.
Sorry, that's my soapbox right there. That's
Church.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I've
again,
just
like,
heard
like
people
there's
say,
plenty of stuff that I think, like for me personally, I think is stupid. I find no enjoyment in it whatsoever. But if
mhm,
you like it, who cares? Unless it's something like serious, like racism, like actual important things that affect people.
right.
If your favorite book of all time is Twilight, I might think that's kind of dumb, but it does not hurt me in the very least that you love it. So read
Right.
the book as much as you want. I'll go do what I do, and nobody is upset. Like it's so strange. I think that mentality got into me from being a lifelong pro wrestling fan
Yes.
because even having the few times where wrestling's been super popular and like a cool
Mhm,
thing, it's usually not. It's
right.
usually something that is like not considered cool by people who don't like it.
Yeah.
And like I never got making being made fun of for it because I'm like, just don't watch it with me then.
Right.
Like how have I hurt you in any way with this? It's so dumb.
People don't appreciate not being catered to. So, of course, nothing's going to ever be as good as the time in their life when everything was catered to them. It's
Yep, pretty
pretty
much.
much
I got
forced.
so mad I just dropped my drink. I'm all fired up now.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I'm
Calm
gonna
down.
tear my own apartment apart this whole thing afterwards. That's how this interview ends. Me just destroying my possessions.
That's what I was hoping. I was hoping to get you there.
Exactly.
Um, Last, our final question. Why should we be optimistic? Like this point, or should we be optimistic? Like where we are as a country right now, just like in general, like why should we be optimistic or should we be
Um,
optimistic?
I think like, and I'm gonna say this as somebody who admittedly is not always the most optimistic guy in the world for myself.
Right.
Um, but like, I think just in general, you know, this too shall pass is kind of a good mentality to have.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that are frustrating me. I won't get too much on a political soapbox here because this isn't it's not the forum for it. But
Hmm.
like, I think as a country, we're doing a lot right now that's prolonging issues as opposed to just let's suffer for a short amount of time.
Right.
Let's suffer more for a short amount of time as opposed to less for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, like, if we just for 6 to 8 weeks just put on damn masks, this thing's probably going to be pretty closer to done as
Yeah.
opposed to just stretching out. But that's like neither here nor there. Whatever. Don't want to get in those arguments.
Right.
Um, but I think like even in that situation though, there's like change isn't easy, and it's usually not without the people who have been benefiting from the old system fighting against it. But
Right.
like, even though things aren't perfect, like I think we've done a whole lot more with race relations to kind of like like people who weren't on board before are now on board, and like
Yeah.
tangible things are being worked at. And again, it's not perfect. There's a ton more work to do. I wouldn't ever try to claim that like, oh, racism's done. We figured it out. But
We
like
did
but like
it.
people are finally like things like that. Things are starting to change, you know. Even just for me personally, you know, I spent years with nobody wanting to have someone with a disability like mine on television, and then
Right.
I got on television, and I have other things pending that are going to kind of hopefully keep me in this. Like there's things that are happening. So like, sure, I had plenty of reasons to look at that bleakly for years,
Right.
and maybe you know realistically and rightfully so, because at that time frame, 5 years ago, they weren't putting me on television. They
Mm-mm.
weren't. That just wasn't going to happen. It was too
No.
much. People thought it was too much for people to handle. Eventually, AGT took a chance and went, okay, we don't know, but we're going to try this anyway. And then it worked out perfectly and everyone was on board. So
Hmm.
like just because things, we always have to like, the things that are happening now are still important and need to be worked on for
Right.
sure. But we also have to look in like the concept of like where we are at now compared to in the past.
Yeah.
Because sure, things are terrible now, but 10 years ago, these talks about like race and everything weren't even, nobody was going to have them. It was
Yeah.
just deal with it, you know? And so like things are always moving forward and there's always going to be people fighting against it. But like the world, like even with as crazy as it is now, objectively, the world is better now than it was 50 years ago, than it was 100 years ago, than it was 200 years ago. That's how
Right.
time works. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It's never
Right.
going to be perfect. That's not how things work. But like objectively, we are in a better place as a society than we were 50 years ago. So always kind of keep that in mind. Like be upset, be vigilant, be concerned about the things that are happening now, but
Yeah.
keep into perspective that like, you know, just because your president isn't just because the president isn't your guy doesn't mean the
Right.
world's going to end per se, because there's going to be a time where that guy's gone. And then when the
Hmm.
next one comes in, if that's not your guy, there's going to be a time when that one's gone. It's
Hmm.
it's it how it works, you know?
Right.
So it's like you always have to have the optimism. What the terrible things of today in your mind might be gone tomorrow. It's just how it is. My life is so much cooler now than it was 2 years ago. And I was not optimistic about my life being very cool 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
things change. You don't know what's going to happen. So I think just life is both a short and very long journey. And you can't judge it based on just this exact moment. If the moment's shitty for you, let it be shitty. That's part
Hmm.
of it. Don't ignore bad things for the sake of this false optimism. Like you're
Yeah.
allowed to be pissed and you're allowed to be sad and you're allowed to be frustrated. But just know tomorrow is brings new opportunities and new things to happen. So it could end up being the best day of your life tomorrow, even if today was the shittiest one.
That's awesome. Onward and upward for
Yep.
sure. For sure. I'm so excited to hear that you have like projects coming up. You've got shows slowly kind of coming back.
Yep. I almost have a career again. We're getting back there. It's close.
Wonderful. I can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you so much. It's
That's
been
I'm glad,
great.
I'm glad it worked out. We tried the Instagram live and technology did not care for us that day. So I'm glad this was much cooler and I like
This
this
is
format.
nice.
This is very cool. And it's
Yeah.
always good to talk, Shell. It's
You too. I wish I could hug you. Fun
well,
fact,
don't. But
you give the
well,
best hugs. You truly do.
it is my superpower, quite
It
frankly.
is. It's a great
I
superpower.
get in close. That's all I'm saying. I get in deep.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.